when you have technology, you have to intersect the humanity, because if you only rely on the technology and you don't include the humanity of the partnership, then everything becomes transactional, and you're done. You're dead in the water.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Today we've got a very special guest. It's Melissa Kaan. She is a principal at Summit Facility Solutions, and with them, you get from janitorial to maintenance to construction, and with Summit, you'll get a partnered and customized approach to facilities management. So I want to welcome you to CMMS Radio, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. We have been working on this for a long time to finally get it coordinated. Schedules are always changing, especially with what you do, and luckily we're able to pull it off today. So the first question I want to ask you out of the gate is, how does a CMMS, we don't want to talk about any specific products that you use or you work with your clients that they might have, shape your approach in how you manage data and use it to drive what you do for your clients?
What a fantastic and loaded question that is. So for me in my position and for my team, the idea of a CMMS system is there's a dichotomy to it, right? So there's what we're doing to provide service to our clients on my end, and then there's their potential portals that they need to manage their assets and their data and their functionality on their end. The importance, and I cannot stress this enough, of a CMMS system. I would not be able to do what I do without it. The idea of having a solution to managing data and having that be a dynamic piece of technology that you leverage for your clients in addition to your clients' portals and their needs. When it's done right, it's a really magical thing, because you're able to have this historical database of everything that you've ever done that you could be proud of, or everything that you have to fix when you're not so proud of it when things happen. We know the business. And being able to marry that with what their needs are on the flip side, you can respond faster. You can be more dynamic in your responses because you have all of these tools at your disposal. And depending on the software that you pick and what you're trying to achieve with it, I probably wouldn't be in business if I didn't have a really wonderfully functioning CMMS system.
I love it. And so for me, I'm imagining all these things and kind of reaching back into my old days, like in the 1990s when I was in the industry, and how we'd be using, whatever was at our disposal, paperwork orders, and then eventually we're using a computer, and then we get some little system inside the company that's helping us with our bidding, and I'm like, hey, let's put work orders in there so we don't ever lose them again. And
Yes.
then we get all the way up to modern day technology where you've got fully web enabled systems. And for me, when it comes to what you do in facilities management, whether it's the janitorial work, building engineers, construction, all these different things, what's really, for me, always at the heart of it is it strengthens the account management aspect of what you do. And what I mean is the old school account management, where you're really trying as best that you can as you scale to deliver great service, but white glove management of said service. And I think that's what a CMMS can do for someone like you.
Yeah. When I started out, I was part of the pack of people with paper. So we're going back over a decade when I first started out in this industry. It was like you got a work order, and when you had a completion, you stapled it together and you dropped it in a file folder. And then when it would disappear and it would have to come back to you, you're like, I now have to go digging for this literal, piece of paper that says what we did or did not do. And the way that a CMMS has evolved over just the past decade is it's unbelievable. The integrations, the systems being able to talk to each other and talk with each other, it allows for companies that prioritize the people to be able to do just that, to prioritize the people. So you have really fantastic resources in the human beings that you choose to employ. And what your CMMS system should do is it should complement that and it should bolster that. This way, when you are giving that white glove service, you're actually able to provide the communication, the check-ins, the phone calls, email, text messaging, cloud-based services. These are all wonderful things. They're all necessary things if you want to stay with or ahead of the curve. But ultimately, what should be setting you apart is you're a human being. You have a job to do. At the end of the day, you want to, operate to the highest of your potential. How do you do that? That comes from, within your personality. People do business with people that they like. They don't do business with people just because, of a name or a portfolio and listen, maybe some people do. Okay. I know that the best people that I've worked with in this industry over the many companies before I, found my home at Summit, um, really focused on what was the problem solving aspect and then what did the CMMS system do for the problem solving aspect. So cataloging all of your notes, cataloging your communications, being able to asset manage a piece of HVAC equipment, being able to monitor when a backflow preventer inspection expires. Try saying that 5 times fast. um, the the components of a truly great computer system lend itself to we get to be people again in the field. Talking about like mobile applications, when you can access your CMMS system from your phone and you can still get to that job site and walk a site with a client and show them, I'm here, I want to show up for you, and actually being able to put your money where your mouth is and show up physically because you're not chained to a desk or tied up with pieces of paper or file cabinets, things like that. That allows you to not only give your clients exactly what they're looking for and hopefully exceed their expectations, it also lets you manage your business with ease too. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of moving pieces in managing an actual business and trying to make that as genuine as possible. And without the technology, it's they've made it very difficult. It's a necessity.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And you're talking about all that, and I think about like back in the day when I would go do site walks, and it's a courtesy stop by. Maybe it was scheduled, and now with these technologies that are available, someone who's doing a site walk can document that as they're going along. They can interface with their client. They might show them a few problems, but at the same time, when you're doing a site walk, you're looking for things that are not problems. You want to do a little bit of documentation of how things are doing really, really well, because 6 months, a year and a half from now, your client might come to you and say, well, what have you guys really been doing? Maybe somebody parachuted into a role because somebody left that org, and now you've got that documentation, and then they can see it and they go, wow, this is my vendor. I don't have to worry about changing that. I'm going to look over here.
Right.
And it helps you, it helps them. They don't have that disruption. You've got that documentation, but it also helps you and your team to see and mitigate much, much quicker. And this is not news to everybody out there. We're just talking about some of the advantages, because we're not saying, hey, go buy this CMMS or that CMMS. We're saying this is what it does for you. It's a tool, and you've tied it right back to what the most important part of all operations and organizations really is, and that's the people. So that's an important thing. So next question I had for you is, um, when it comes to, I want to ask you, what is first tier maintenance, and how does that set the stage for maintenance excellence at any given site?
Ooh. So for me, I provide and I train my team to provide, and my fantastic team plug, provides, an opportunity to problem solve for the site without having to, you know, roll a truck. Okay. If especially in aggregate, you're not going to be saving somebody money versus going to Joe Handyman who's local, who's down the street. The thing is that as technology moves at the speed of the facility, you have to be able to keep up with what the requirements are. So that's insurance, but that's also technology. It's invoicing. It's, utilizing portals, utilizing mobile apps, having GPS coordinates and being able to report on those things. So when you have first tier maintenance and how that applies to a CMMS and then how it applies to actually providing an ROI for your clients, I'll give you, for instance, you have, a plumbing line in a system. You house the floor plans in your CMMS. You house the historical work that you've done on the site. You can literally have, you know, every single note that you've ever gotten from the plumbers that have been there in the time that you've had ownership of the plumbing on that site. You get another call, there's another clog. Well, instead of just rolling a truck because you have no prior information, now you can go back to your CMMS and you can look through what we've done. And instead of making a client spend money, now we say, let's proactively suggest something. Let's camera the line. Let's see if there's a belly. Let's see if the pipes are corrugated. Let's see if there's roots in the line. Let's see if the main line is having an issue because of construction happening, in a strip mall. So a couple doors down, somebody's doing a rebuild. You know how construction debris can get in there. And we are able to troubleshoot prior to dispatching because we have all of this data. So it lends itself to being able to say, all right, so we're aggregating and we're getting people out there for you and we're doing this all in real time. But if we can avoid that spend, let's avoid that spend because then that's where you really add value. I was talking to one of my clients about the facility Venn diagram, right? The be all end all. So it's speed, it's quality, and it's cost. And if you have the right CMMS system, and there's so many wonderful platforms out there that you can make a choice, and it could be the right choice for you. It may not be the right choice for somebody else. It depends on what your applications are. But if you have the right thing for your portfolio or your business needs or your solution that you're looking to provide, you are able to aim for the middle of that triangle, in speed and quality and cost. And sometimes you get the unicorn and you hit all three. I always like to be very realistic with my partners, my vendors, my clients, my team, and say, we're just people trying to accomplish something every day. So, you always aim for 2 out of 3. Otherwise, you shouldn't be hired. But when you can get that 3, and it's because you have all of this asset management and data behind you, um, it can really boost your, not only your business, but it can boost your legacy. Because who wants to do a job and be forgotten or be only as good as your worst job? Like, that's horrifying. So that to me is how first tier maintenance plays into that, and how it applies to the CMMS and the clients is really using the information to get an ROI for your partners.
I love this, and it was part of the reason I wanted to ask the question is I kind of suspected you were going to be able to just roll right into it and just blam, lay it all out there, because I can see it in action. I can see you're just constantly thinking about this, and that comes from the immersion. And I get passionate, right? I'm animated and all that because I care about this stuff,
Yeah.
So it's so awesome to hear that from you rather than me saying it. This is these kind of journey stories and how the rubber meets the road, how you really are affecting good outcomes. I love that part of it. And we're all out here trying to make money, but what's also important is we're all out here trying to do the best possible job that we can.
If
I
you
think
are madly in love with what you do, and I am, if you are madly in love with what you do, then everything is super personal. And in everything that you do, whether it's changing a light bulb or, writing down a note that, on information that a vendor gave you, that's all high stakes. It's high stakes all day long, but it's because you have the passion for. I don't know how anybody could not love facilities, but I also think that um, there's a bit of a love to hate kind of a role in facilities because it's so negative that it's broken. The whole reason why the industry exists is because blank is broken, and the the components of what we do, you have to love it. You have to be passionate about it because if you're not going to survive in this industry. It's a little bit masochistic, right? You have to be able to take a lot of pain, and you have to be able to think really quickly, and you have to be able to problem solve aggressively. And that's why this data is so important. That's why a CMMS is so important because there's only so much gray matter in our brains. Like, how are we supposed to remember every single thing that happened on every single ticket ever in time? I even, with CMMSs, because they house so much historical data, because they're so valuable. Anytime I'm working with a new partner, I'll say to them, give me one job, give me a chance, give me one job. If you absolutely hate me, then you walk away. I'm no commitment. You work with me based on the merit of me and my team's performance. Um, if you love us, you'll keep working with us. If you hated us after that one job, and then 10 years from now, somebody in your company says, hey, whatever happened with that one job? The beauty of the CMMS is you can call me and I will have that information readily available for you and serve it to you on a silver platter, probably beg for your forgiveness, that whole nine. But ultimately, you're offering this lifetime achievement of data with these systems and how much they've evolved. And it's it's a very cool thing to be able to say that there is legacy in what you're doing, right? Because it's always able to be referred back to. And in order to do good business and make money and keep going, that's pivotal. Nobody wants to have the, you know, where did I put that piece of paper again moment in their careers anymore, And I mean, I know I sure don't. So I think that value also lends itself to that passion. Everything that I'm talking about it's all very symbiotic. It all goes hand in hand with each other, and
Yeah.
one does not exist without the other.
Yeah, I like it because in reality, that's how it actually unfolds. And people can do a lot of this stuff without CMMS software. I mean, they can go super old school. It just depends on the workload. But I think, and again, this isn't just all about CMMS. It's the M and the M in the middle, maintenance management, because what
Yeah.
you do in facilities management, what you do in construction, what you do in janitorial, and on like this, maintenance management plays all day, every day, wherever you are. And those different activities, whether you're in manufacturing, school settings, all that kind of stuff, if those things aren't happening, like maintenance itself, it's not repairs, it's preventing repairs. And that happens with facilities as well. If that stuff stops and you lose a minute, that's risk. And
Yeah.
all we're trying to do is mitigate risk. And I think it's great. So let's see what else I got on the list here for you. Cause I'm throwing you some zingers because I kind of thought you'd be into that.
I'm into
So,
it. Let's do it.
all right. So what is the most beneficial thing that you get? Now, I'm talking about you specifically from the use of a CMMS or similar systems from a day-to-day operations perspective, like kind of a day in the life and how that impacts you and what you do.
I mean, it's quality of life. So that, whenever I talk about like adding a piece of technology or adding another component to a CMMS or adding another system. I mean, I work in a ton of different softwares.
Mhm.
And that changes constantly with the portfolio, right? So you get a new client and they're working on a platform that you've never heard of before. Now you got to work on integrating, you got to work on training your team, you got to work on how they want things done within their own portals, how that's going to translate to your proprietary systems, all that stuff. But ultimately, whenever you need to do that, if you need to hire an employee, if you need to, roll out a new program, anything that has to do with, okay, this needs to go into this system, it's to buy back your time, right? So it's, for me, it's very much about minute management versus time management. You see there's tons of wellness apps, and there's tons of mindfulness apps and technology that people push today, and a lot of the talk about the workplace today is very culture forward, because you want to be able to create that productive environment for people, and you want to be able to create a happy environment, because happiness will breed productivity, and that's like business 101, right? So how do these things affect me? They give me back my time. When you don't have to go searching for something, reporting, data analytics, business intelligence, all of those things that are built within the systems and the software that you can extract very quickly. I mean, you have systems that you can set up just an automated email to come to you every single day and say, this is how many tickets you've got, this is how many tickets are pending a quote, this is how many vendors are on. There's so much information that you can pull that's then at your fingertips, that for me, in managing not just a team but my entity within the company, you know there's there's so many different components of the day that I wouldn't be able to, step away and eat lunch, let alone, hang out with my kid, or, you know, be able to go to happy hour. I mean, there's a lot of different things. When I was a coordinator a decade ago, and I was working with the paper system, I would like stay up at night, like, did I file that? Did I, so to be able to, on your day to day, have these luxuries, really, they're luxuries, right? is is nothing short of imperative to having quality of life. Buying back your own time, and then you could be able to give that to somebody else. Like, I have the availability now where I can work with a charity. I have the availability where on the weekends, I've got my connections right here, and I can work while I'm, at the park with my kid. There's there's a real beauty in integrating it into your life, and that's how I use it day to day. It moves the business forward, and it also allows me to live my life so that when I'm coming into my business, I'm giving my business 200%, because I have that availability. I have that room in my mind to be able to think about the things that I need to do, the goals, the achievements, the accomplishments, mentoring, training. Business it's a living, breathing thing, just like buildings are. In maintenance management, these buildings age, they creak, they move, they're artistic, they're functional, they're so many different things. And if you love this industry in any capacity of it, there's so much life to be had within it. But at the end of the day, you're kind of useless if you're burnt out, right? So that's one of the real, for me anyway, that's one of the real amazing benefits of having it.
Well, I would certainly agree that you can't be as effective as you would be when you're not burnt out or overwhelmed. And we know we're going to encounter those things. It's not like, how do I solve my burnout and being overwhelmed with all the workload while I have to manage this, that, and the other stuff in my life, keep the business running top notch and getting everything done? I mean, you're going to run into walls and barriers and hurdles. But these things, if we leverage them properly and we embrace them, right?
Yeah.
It creates the space for that to be solved. Like, at the end of the day, I don't care what business you're in. I don't care what we're talking about. We can just lump it all together as life. You're going to have problems. And if you're in a better position to solve them because these things do a little bit for you, I'm not saying it takes away the fact that you're a human being. It just gives you
Yeah.
something that you can leverage as a tool to be better. And it also, you were talking about something else, and it made me think, this technology, when utilized in the right way, and you kind of stay on top of the technology, it creates that space to preserve your own well-being. And it's all going to always come back to being more and more effective. And
Right.
I really love that about everything that you were saying. So then I'm going to move on. When it comes to, now, this is not technology related. This is like, I'm
Is
going
this a
for,
curveball? I'm very
nah,
nosy.
not a curveball, not for you anyway. This is a softball, in
Oh.
my opinion, for you. So what is it about relationships in facilities management that matters to you and to Summit?
Oh, God. I love doing business with people that I like. Trust, and I'm pretty comfortable in speaking for my business partners when it comes to this, but trust is paramount. And having real partnerships and doing real business together, you have to be able to close your eyes and fall backwards a little bit on people, sometimes a lot. And for us, when we're doing business together with somebody, we understand. We understand that there's noise from the field, right? That's what we're hired to eliminate is the noise. So you have, a store or a plant or a distribution center that's, fire, flood, or two light bulbs are out, and that's an emergency to them. You never know. It depends on what's important. If you're dealing with like a luxury retail brand, the most important thing is lighting. They don't care about the toilet in the back that's not working currently. They care that their product is being highlighted. If you're in a healthcare setting, the equipment and running water and hot water, that's super important. If you're in a restaurant, your kitchen equipment, if it goes down, you're literally losing money by the second. So understanding all of the different needs and then applying that and getting to know your partners on a much more, I always say, like, I like to take a much more intimate approach to facilities. And when I say intimate, I mean, like, I want to know the people that I'm working with. Um, and not necessarily that I need to know everything about their lives. I want to get to know people. Some of my best partners have become amazing friends, and I'm open to that, and I welcome that, and I hope that that happens with every partnership, because I would much prefer to have a laugh with a person, especially when something is literally on fire. But for me, the most important part of the relationship, and I think for my partners, is just having that trust and being able to have that ease. When you trust somebody, you become vulnerable. So you become able to call during an emergency and take a sigh of relief because you know that it's going to be handled. Or, on a Friday when you've had a rough week and you really need this quote and you want to talk through it, or you want to second bid something, but, you're not really sure about, how much you trust the scope of work that you've been given, things of that nature. When you have those real true partnerships, those phone calls are easy to make even when things go wrong and you have to own up and choke and be accountable, for something happening, because we know that things don't go perfectly. I always say nothing goes 100% of the time, but that the trust that turns into that vulnerability that can ultimately turn into friendships and achievements together, that's the most important thing. I don't think that there's anything. What's the point? If you're not having a little bit of fun, what's the point?
Yeah, yeah. This journey we're on is, as long as people may think it is, it's far too short
Yes.
to get hung up. And I think we've all gotten hung up and gotten into those spaces, and it's like, have a laugh.
Yeah.
It's I love, anybody that knows me knows I love chopping it up. I'll ham it up, and uh, I mean, if I say I don't care, that sends the wrong message. What I mean is I actually care. That's what I mean when I say I don't care. Let's just do it. Tomorrow's not promised to us, and we're not making the show about that. But doing good business, having great relationships, not only developing but then cultivating trust is kind of a mic drop on everything. It solves everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard to do. And if you step up, like you're talking about, like what we do when it comes to facilities and all these different things, there's a lot of tough stuff, but that's what you sign up for. That's what you get up every day and go, bring it, let's go. I'm going
Well,
to
again,
try.
that comes back to how high the stakes are, because that trust, that takes a while to form, and it's broken so easily. In the same token where you're friends with your partners or you're friends with your vendors, you also have that component to it where you have to be grateful that that was earned. Because if you break it, if you lose it, getting it back is damn near impossible, and the the loss that you would experience, not just in business, not fiscally, we're not talking dollars and cents, but in those partnerships, because our industry is pretty small, and you want to leave that great legacy, and you want to be that. I hate, I'm probably using plenty of buzzwords, but I was about to say I hate buzzwords, but I'm full of them. But you want to be that trusted advisor. And how do you do that? Like, how do you achieve that? If you're not owning up to that stuff. Accountability. That's another thing, and that's another word that it's like, you hate picking up that phone and making that phone call, but
You got to
it's
do it. You got
got
to
to do
do
it.
it.
That's
You
it.
just got to do it because the cost is far greater to everyone when you don't.
Yeah. And it's
And
easier to just be honest. I had a fantastic boss when I was a coordinator. And I was panicked about, something, and I recorded it in the system, my little CMMS, and I emailed it over to him, and he came up to my desk, and there's that human component. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Why are you afraid of calling them? Just call them and tell them what happened." And, I'm freaking out because I don't want to lose the client, which in that day and age, I didn't understand the just all the different levels that there really were. I was fairly green. And he said, we're service providers, we're not professional liars. Like, just, don't be afraid of it. And I that stuck with me so much. A lot of the interactions that I've had with people and partners, and difficult things over my career has really taught me that those are all of the things that at the end of the day are going to matter most. And you see that stuff in technology. If somebody is in the world of technology, in terms of the systems that we use, and they have those same ideologies, that translates into the systems, and you'll see it in little components of the system, that there's extra care that's gone into it to make sure that it's giving you everything that you need. It's pretty remarkable.
that's a really good little segment to kind of reinforce for everyone out there, because a lot of people are resistant to utilizing their various technologies, whether it's a CMMS or something else, right? Any of these technologies are like, man, this is a hassle. I got to put this in here and all that. But if you embrace it and turn that corner, you will find that it's benefiting everyone, including yourself. And sometimes you don't see it. And I love the story that you told, because it sounds to me like, at least in the last decade, you've had tremendous mentorship in your life where people will tell you how it really is, not because they're trying to program you, but because they're trying to teach you, because you were available to be taught. I love that kind of stuff. I mean, especially
Well,
in these industries, that
yes.
is the real deal. That's where it really happens. All the experts I bring on and all that, they're all very into mentorship, have experienced great mentorship, and it just keeps paying forward. And everyone's like, Greg, you're talking kumbaya and all that. Call it whatever you want. It's gooey stuff, it's mushy stuff, but at the same time, it's legit. And the people out there that do it in a more direct way, maybe they're aggressive, they don't use all the flowery words, take a second, because the message is the same. They're just moving a little bit quicker, and it's not because they want to neglect you. It's because they want to give you what they got and go do what they're doing all at the same time. It's all, this is brilliant. I've loved this conversation. Um, so what I want to ask you, I got two more segments here. I don't know if they're segments, but little listed questions. So how do you connect your people to the process? And what I'm talking about there is the why of what you do within the organization.
You have to really take time. You touched on mentoring, and with my team, I try and mentor them as much as possible. Everybody gets my whole sob story and how I got here. And I'm very, very blessed. I'm very, very fortunate. I also worked very, very hard and took my chances, even when the risks seemed too great. The thing is that when you're training processes, number one, don't assume that everyone's going to learn the way that you learn. That's such an important thing. I've been trained by some incredible, incredible people in operations, in project management, in business development, in accounting. I mean, all of the things that you would learn to operate a business in the construction and maintenance and facilities worlds. Um, when you're implementing process and you're explaining the why, you have to explain it universally and you have to be objective. In the same token where I talked about like how passionate I am about what I do, there's also the dichotomy of you cannot expect everybody to take the same approach that you do. It's different strokes for different folks, and to make that translatable for who you're working with, that's the only way. Everybody learns differently. Some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, some people are very hands-on, some people have to fail before they can fly. Giving people grace when you're implementing processes, being objective and not teaching somebody the way that you would expect to learn, and then really just being able to be a point of reference. So sometimes you're going to need to explain something more than once. Sometimes you're going to need to explain why more than once. Sometimes you're going to have pushback. You're also going to implement things, especially as an owner, that not everybody's going to like, right? You can't make everybody happy all of the time. It's a really difficult thing in business, especially when you care about your team, because you want them to be happy. I talked a lot about how happiness breeds productivity, and how important culture is, and all of those key components, but you can't have that be 100%, just like the work doesn't get done 100%. Just like not every single note is going to go in 100% how a technician said it. There's myriad of things that are going to be less than optimal. So when you're implementing something or you're taking the time to explain something, just give everybody the latitude to digest, and then don't be afraid of the repeat questions or the pushback. Embrace that. If you also learn how to deal with, when you're implementing something and somebody is resistant to that change, you're going to grow just as much as that person could potentially grow because you're open to that opposition. That's another thing too about leadership, is that you lead. True leaders, in my opinion, they don't lead by just leading. It's not leading with pep talks. It's not leading with an iron fist. There's no one avenue to leadership. It's you have to live the whole ideology of being a leader and a trainer and a mentor and all those things, and accept that every component is also probably not going to be something that you're going to like either. I hate having difficult conversations with my team. I hate it, because I care about my team so deeply. However, um, at the risk of sounding callous, you do have a job to do. There is these responsibilities. There is staying ahead of the curve. There is keeping up with the Joneses. There are new things that we have to learn and do every day. Um, Patience, I guess, is like that's it. Patience.
All right. I like it. I like it. And a lot of these things, there's not always not a right or wrong answer. So some of what we talked about today. So I'm going to move us into the fun question segment.
Oh boy.
If you haven't been having fun yet, and there's
I'm
one.
having a blast.
All right, cool. I like that. That's what I want. Real stuff, things we're passionate about, things that might be meaningful to someone, things that people might not agree with. I don't know if I agree with that. Well, chime in, everybody. It's not a problem. That's what we're here for, is to really keep these conversations going because they matter. So, fun question number 1. What is your favorite music?
No, I hate that question. That's such a difficult question. Like you know, everybody has their season, right? Um, Classic rock obviously will always have a special place in my heart. Um, I'm not really. I don't like to be choosy, because if I can jam on with a sound, then rock and roll. Let's do it. But uh, favorite music, I would have to say, is probably like classic rock, and then like some indie alternative, like some moody stuff.
All right, cool. Very cool. Very cool. And this is, we just like to get to know you. we can see you, the smile, the passion, but we want to know just a couple of little things, nothing too crazy. So
Okay.
next one, what is your favorite sport or hobby? And when it comes to the sport, it does not necessarily have to be one that you play. It could be one that you like to follow, support, and you find entertaining. So favorite sport or hobby.
I am regrettably a diehard Jets fan. New York Jets football. I hate myself and my team every day, and I really thought this was going to be our year with Aaron Rodgers, and 4 snaps in and his season's done. That was hard to swallow. But I feel like the Jets are cursed with quarterbacks, so that I'm very committed to my football Sundays. I'm just always or almost always mildly disappointed, but not surprised.
Yeah, and look, you did have one that was really, really good and kind of called his shot. So long time ago.
The last great that we had might as well have been like Namath. It's like
That's who I was talking about.
We're hurting.
Yeah. But hey, there's always hope for the future. So we'll see what happens later. And I hope you guys have an awesome season. So the final question, and this one you kind of got into already with one of the other questions I asked. What is your viewpoint or perspective, and there's no wrong answers here, on the concept of work-life balance?
Let it rip.
All right.
If you love what you do, if you really love what you do, you'll push yourself. You'll push yourself because you want to leave something behind that's meaningful and real, and memorable. But at the end of the day, you touched on this. Life is just not that long, right? So living in the moment, right, is, everybody has like hobbies and passions. And for me, because I like my work so much, it's almost like a hobby. I enjoy doing this. But I mean, for me, it's also family first. And I don't think anybody could, blame me for feeling that way. I think it's about striking the balance that feels the best to you while also honoring your commitments. Because you need to be able to do both. I mean, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and I believe in flexibility, and I believe in, look, this was a CMMS conversation. You can have your CMMS on your phones. Technicians have GPS. There's a lot of magical stuff around what we're doing these days in the industry. So you can have flexibility, but show up not only for your team, show up for yourself. I mean, look, I'm a football fan, so team mentality, that's a big deal for me. And just like your team in the office, you have a team at home. Show up for them too. And then show up for you. Because again, you don't know when you're not going to wake up, and you want to be able to lay your head down on a pillow every night knowing that you did everything that you could do. You left it all out on the field.
Yeah, I like it. I see what you did there. I really like it. So real quick, everybody, you can find Melissa on LinkedIn. We got connected there. We stayed in touch. We finally got this episode going. So connect with her there if you want to get your own conversation going. And you can also send an email to Melissa at summitfacilitysolutions.com. And Melissa is Melissa, and that's at summitfacilitysolutions.com. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much,
Melissa. This was a blast.
I had a great
time. Really enjoyed it.
I had a great time. I appreciate it very, very much. This was killer. Thank you so much for having me.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit cmmsradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.